This episode of the Spectrum Report podcast contains audio taken from our live broadcast with Sergeant Corey Mead. Sergeant Mead is a first responder and a father of a daughter on the autism spectrum. As a police officer, he works to positively impact the lives of the people in his community, and he joined us to hopefully have a positive impact on yours. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's broadcast of the Spectrum Report. The Spectrum Report is brought to you by Neural Balance with Anandinol. Anandinol is an herbal vitamin mineral blend that was created by a medical doctor and a pharmacist to help their own families. You can learn more about it by going to our website, neuralbalance.com, and clicking on the How It Works tab. It'll tell you all about the process, the folks behind it, and how it works. It's a natural product, no side effects. You'll love it. If you want to hear from other parents and caregivers, see what their reactions have been, what their experience has been with Neural Balance, you can just search Neural Balance Support Group on Facebook and ask to join. And of course, you can also shoot us an email at support@neuralbalance.com and just ask for more information. We can mail you a brochure if you give us shipping information, or we can just email you information or answer specific questions. So go ahead and check us out on the web or shoot us an email. So the reason we are doing today's show in particular is we recently had a hurricane, and I started thinking about, what are some of the different scenarios that emergency responders have to deal with when it comes to kids with special needs. They roll up on an accident or a fire or something like that. What if the parent is incapacitated? They're having a medical emergency of their own. How can we prepare for the unforeseen that might come about? So one of the things that I thought that I could do is to have somebody on the show who could kind of help with some of this information. So today we're going to have our guest, Sergeant Corey Mead. He's with the Ponce Inlet Police Department. Our mutual connection is we became friends through his wife. She runs a special needs parents group in Volusia County Special Needs Moms and Dads. So we got to know each other as she was helping us spread the word about Neural Balance. Kind of dawned on me, it would be great to have Corey on the show so that we can talk about different ways to help prepare for, the unforeseen. So we want to welcome Corey to the show, and we will get started. Corey, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
nice
for coming.
Be here.
Yes, thank you. I said thanks for coming, but obviously you didn't come anywhere. You're at home. So thank you for being with us today, though. I really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know right now you're with Ponce Inlet, but your law enforcement career goes back farther than that. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I've been in Ponce Inlet for over 22 years now.
Wow.
A long time. Yeah, I started at Ponce Inlet. I left for a little while and came back. But
okay.
22 years plus, been on motorcycle, been in investigations, done a whole variety of things there.
So you've seen it all, from traffic to more serious cases. You've kind of been all over. Right.
I've called for service, routine traffic stops to investigations. I mean, I've done the gambit for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and you did a little stint. Were you on a couple episodes of live? What is it? Live PD or?
No, I was on. It was A&E's live PD cam.
Okay.
PD cam, and I had an incident on a Votran bus in our town, and they got my body cam, and they liked what they saw, and they flew me up there for an interview.
Oh, that's neat. So if any of you out there watching thinking that Corey looks familiar, that's it. This isn't his first radio. He's been on camera before. Hopefully this will be a little more pleasant than that was, though. So, like I said, we did a show with your wife, Beth. We talked about hurricane safety. That's a big thing, for us to worry about here in Florida and the Southeast. But that it made me start thinking, what other scenarios can you possibly run into as law enforcement where, parents maybe have not been as well equipped to deal with these things as we would hope to be. And one thing I know about dealing with like especially autism moms and dads is they try to think about everything and be prepared ahead of time. So one of the things that I started kind of wondering about is what are some of the ways that you might make contact with a family that has a special needs member just on a regular basis? Like what are some of the experiences that you've had in the past?
All right. Well, let me backtrack a little before I get into that. As far
Okay.
as me personally, with my law enforcement experience, the training and the rookie school and all that stuff. We have a
But you
daughter,
have a
Beth and I.
personal, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've skipped over that. You have a personal connection. You have wonderful daughters, and one of
Yes.
them is on the spectrum. Please, yes,
Right.
tell us about that.
Beth and I have 12-year-old twin girls. Courtney is on the spectrum. She was diagnosed at age 3, as most of them are. So it's been 10 years or whatever that we've been knowing what's going on. And my first realization, or one of the fears I had, was, hey, my rookie school training doesn't really correlate to how I want my daughter to be treated out in public if she had
Right.
some law enforcement encounter for some reason. We were trained to, we're looking for non-compliance might be a threat. The training we had back then wasn't adequate. So I started looking into what can be done about um, uh, how would I want my daughter to be treated, basically. How do I tell all these police officers out here how I want my daughter to be treated? So that's always been going on in my head. And then also there was that incident in 2016 down in South Florida where the caregiver was shot by law enforcement.
Right.
Um, and that actually kickstarted some legislative changes where they've mandated training for law enforcement now. And there's also a statute for there has to be a designated caregiver there when the child or subject is interviewed. It's just layers of protection, somewhat inadequate, but it's a step in the right direction.
Well, that spurred you into action a little bit too, didn't it? You created a little bit of a training, and you've done that locally with some of
Well,
the.
I was involved with that with the local rookie school. I was trying to develop a course basically, but the whole thing kind of steamrolled past me and got beyond where we were, and I kind of got out of it. But there are already resources out there. One that I've taken personally. Let's see, Autism Society of Greater Orlando,
Okay.
ASGO. Donna Lorman is the director's name. She puts on law enforcement training, basically autism awareness training for law enforcement. Wonderful, wonderful training for current law enforcement, where she has her son who's on the spectrum. We do role playing interaction with him. Other people that might not have children on the spectrum, law enforcement get to get some experience with them. And actually, I had Beth. Beth took Courtney to one of the follow up classes after I went, and Courtney was one of the people they all interacted with. So, the more interaction, the more law enforcement is going to be able to realize what's going on. The quicker that we can identify someone's on the spectrum, then that training can kick in, as opposed to just a wide what's going on, what do we have to deal with. We can
Right.
focus in on how to deal best with them.
Right. So
So
instead of approaching the situation like this is a neurotypical person who's giving me a hard time, they need to maybe recognize some of the signs that they're not neurotypical and adjust accordingly.
for sure. I mean, 100%. Everything it gets down to the minutia of we have interview and interrogation techniques. So I might ask you the same as a suspect, a neurotypical suspect. I'll ask you the same thing a variety of different ways, trying to trip you up, so to speak, or get to the truth. Whereas with these children, absolutely not. Don't ask the same question twice, because they generally want to please everyone and they want to give you the right answer. So if you ask a question twice, the second time they think, well, I gave the wrong answer the first time. Let me give them the right
The right
answer.
answer, right.
Just That's just an
And
example of what
we've
I'm talking
seen
about.
cases where people went to jail. Other people went to jail. I think I don't know if you're familiar with the West Memphis Three. Even it was these boys that were wrongly accused, and they were one of them was on death row. I mean, he was multiple times within hours even of his execution. There was a stay, and they ended up working a deal, but it all started with a confession, and one of the friends was not neurotypical. He didn't have autism or anything, but he was a low IQ individual, and they interrogated him mercilessly for hours, and he ended up, saying, "Okay, we did it," and they put everything together from there, and it turned out to not even be true. So that is definitely something that I think police. Law enforcement needs to come up to speed in that. I mean, you guys do a great job. I certainly appreciate what you guys do. And I know it's very difficult when you're dealing with people who should behave and can behave, but don't behave.
Right.
But
Exactly.
when you come on a situation where someone really needs your help and you may not be able to read those signs, it could be problematic. So now, keeping that in mind, since this is more for, we have a couple people viewing. April says hi. She has a son who's completely nonverbal. He's 9. And so she says she's always looking for innovative ways to ensure his safety. And she mentions there's a program called Project Lifesaver that's good for kids who are nonverbal and who tend to elope. I don't know if that's a GPS type system. I know those are available. But, one thing I was thinking, and I actually had that caregiver shooting in mind. One of the things that it just kind of dawned on me. So what if you're in a car accident and you, the caregiver, are incapacitated, and now your kid is nonverbal and hysterical because of the accident, but they're unharmed. So now emergency responders roll up on that. And, in a case, if it's a young kid, it may not be as much of a problem, but some of the parents that I talk to, their kids are 6 foot tall and 275. So if you roll up on a grown man who's extremely combative and won't comply, the first thing I would assume that you would want to do for almost everybody's safety is subdue that person, and that's just going to make things worse. So, I started thinking, what can parents do? Not that it's all on them, because it's not. But we also always want to be prepared for every worst case scenario. So what are some of the things, just say if there's a car accident, what's something that a parent might do that would be beneficial for you as you arrive on the scene if they aren't able to speak for their child?
Right. Well, the car accident would be a pretty extreme one because there's no real preparing the child for that.
Right.
With Courtney, and I know they all are a little different. They're all, once you've met one autistic child,
The
you've
only
met one autistic
consistent
child.
is inconsistency.
Exactly
Right.
right. But
Yeah.
in my daughter's perspective, for her, what we found works is preparing her for possibilities. If she knows what's coming, she's going to be able to deal with it more. If she's surprised by something, or back when she was really bad, if we made a left turn in the wrong place, we're supposed to go to the next street and make a left turn, she's going to have a meltdown. Like, we've come a long ways over time, but we've done it with Beth has been fantastic, and Beth is wonderful, and I'd love to sing the praises of Beth. But she started these social stories. So like when we were trying to integrate her into the community, Courtney, as far as like we bought passes to Disney. Hey, let's get Courtney to Disney. So before that, the night before they left, Beth got a book. She's created a book, pictures off the internet. Here's what it looks like when you're arriving to Disney World. Welcome to Disney World, the sign. That was page 1. Like, here's what you're going to see when you get there. And here's where we pay to park. And here's we can pick the monorail or the boat or however we get to the Magic Kingdom. Like, just by pre-planning everything for her, it was familiar to her the next morning.
Making it predictable.
Right. And she had a lot less anxiety because we had done that. So
That's outstanding.
I would make a social story, just a generic, hey, here's law enforcement, here's a policeman, here's what he looks like, here's his belt, here's what he's got on his belt. He's here to help you. He helps us in an emergency. If you're lost, you can go to him and ask for help, ask him to help find your mommy. I mean, just so the very first time they come across law enforcement is not the very first time that they've seen it.
I smell a book deal. I mean, I think that's, if you think about it, it's an issue. It's something that we have to think about. I mean, it's funny because most of the time when I talk with parents, and they're not just talking about, how does the product work or whatever, but they're talking about what they're concerned about. It's always about, what are they going to do without me? What
Right.
they're going to live longer than me, or what if I'm unable, or what, it's always, what are they going to do without me? The planning, I would say, and I mean, you live like this, I'm sure. Half of your planning goes into what if, worst case, right? So,
Right.
that I mean, a book with social stories with pictures and different things like that. So you're actually taking a different spin even than I thought you would. I thought you were like, you would say, and we talked about a sticker. We'll talk about that in a minute, but
Sure.
a sticker, a sign, something in their pocket, a hat, whatever. But you would start with preparing the child to a
Just
certain
yeah,
extent. Yeah.
just right from the very get go. Just have a base, and then we can build on the base.
Okay. So social stories where they can see what emergency responders look like. These are firemen. This is an ambulance. And so that leads me to a question. If it's not, because you mentioned Courtney notices if you didn't take, you took a block too soon. So if you
Hmm.
show her a picture of a police officer and he wears a certain kind of hat, but then there's a different police officer that shows up, is that enough to throw her off? Or
Uh,
can you give it such a broad thing where a police officer will have a firearm, or a fireman will not have one, or things like that? You just have
I
to
mean,
kind of be as
it's
broad
really,
as you can.
yeah, it's going to be dependent on the kid, obviously. But if your child is probably going to get thrown off by it's so not specific, then show a bunch of different law enforcement. I mean,
Gotcha.
Courtney, it's fine with Courtney, and Courtney sees me in my uniform every day. So I mean, she might be a weird case scenario for sure.
Not,
Because
yeah, not typical usually.
right, but the other thing, as far as the social story, here in Volusia, um, I had called Volusia County Dispatch because and I know this is very local, and I don't know how it's going to translate to your audience, but they should be able to do it where they are locally. We have our county dispatches for every agency in the county, so we don't have our own dispatchers at each police department. The county dispatches everybody, and that has pros and cons. But one of the pros would be we have, and this kind of has a negative connotation by what they call it, but it's called a premise hazard. So if I'm going to a particular address, I get dispatched to an address, a premise hazard might pop up on my screen. There's firearms, or dangerous to law enforcement guy in this house, or it might even be innocent, like here's the gate code to open his front gate, so you don't have to
Right.
go half mile to get to
Or
his
elderly, lives there alone,
so
wheelchair. Right.
so I called the county dispatch and told them about our talk today, and I asked specifically, would parents be able to contact Volusia County Dispatch directly to add their child's information into the address, and they said absolutely yes. So I would encourage that. Call the county to say, hey, the only thing I don't like about this idea is that it's called a premise hazard. My child is not a hazard. She's not a premise hazard, but that's what they
Right.
call it
But the
on their screen.
misunderstand, I don't think she's the hazard. I think misunderstanding is the
Right.
hazard, right?
Right.
So
And you could tell them, her name, her date of birth. Um, if she eloped, she would go to the beach, or she would go to my neighbor's pool. Like,
that's
where would she
outstanding.
go? What are her triggers? What are her calming things? I mean, you could give them whatever you want to give them, and it would go in there. So, and sometimes if I'm going to a call, I might not read all those notes, but the dispatcher's reading them to me. Hey, there's a premise hazard at this address, and they read it to you as you're on your way. So, I mean, well, like I said, and what I didn't say, my rookie school was in 1993, so a lot has changed since then. There was like zero autism training in 1993. It was not even known
The
about.
rate of autism was a lot smaller then too.
Right.
It wasn't as prevalent.
And so now they have some of it built into rookie school, where these new law enforcement is getting some exposure to it, and now we have this law that's going to really make it better. It's all getting better, but there's that gap of old dudes like me. If I didn't have an autistic kid and I didn't look for any of this training, because I didn't whatever have
You
interest
wouldn't
or feel the
know.
need, I would
You,
have no idea. I would be
right.
doing all this old stuff. So the more information the law enforcement officer can have, the quicker he can realize what's going on. It's the same thing with I'm a trainer at our place, so I do all the less lethal, and I do use of force training. I train the police, and so one of my one of my points in use of force training is, the quicker you can identify the threat, the quicker you can decide what you're going to do and activate your response. So, an example is I had a guy coming at me with I thought it was a big club in his hand. He was walking towards me with it looked like a club. I'm like, hey, drop the club, buddy. He was drunk and coming at me. And later, I discovered it was a 44 Magnum in a holster. It
Holy
looked like
moly.
a big, so like I'm sure it was only a couple of seconds that it took me to realize it, but in hindsight, and then the adrenaline filled moment, it seemed like way too long.
Right.
And like I could have been, the could have been, would have been, should have been,
Yeah.
kind of eat you up. But the quicker you realize what's going on, the better you can react to it. So the quicker I know that there's somebody autistic in this house, then I can get into that mindset. Hey, I might not want to come with my lights and sirens because the sensory input is too much. I need to give them some space, give them some personal space. I need to be calm and low key. Use soft words, demonstrate calmness and as opposed to commanding the scene and yelling at people. And
It's a big, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's such a different way because you're taught that when you walk onto a scene, you use the term command the scene. That's normally what you're taught. You need to control everybody. You need to give direct orders, clear, concise, and it's a whole different approach. Now you're trying to figure out how you manage the folks who are neurotypical based on your training, and how they'll react, but you also have that extra. So I love it because so far most of the preparation has been preparing the kid, what you can do by calling your local dispatcher. Now, is that something, would somebody do that county and municipal, or as a county dispatcher they pretty much cover all the municipalities within the county as well?
Right. Well, the county thing it's just going to be on the dispatch screen if the officer dispatched. But I've had you mentioned earlier, and I kind of skipped over it, but I've met with families in my town, and now I work for a real small place, so it's kind of easier for me. But I'll see them at bus stops, or I've been called to their homes. I've had autistic parents call and say, "Hey, my kid is a little. Sometimes he gets a little unruly, and he's a big, 275." 6'5" kid, and I don't want anything bad to happen. And everybody at my place knows, oh, this is a job for Corey. Send Corey down there, and I go talk to them. And so, like this particular family I met with, I would show up. I just kind of developed a plan with the parents, and I said, hey, I want to come meet. I want to meet the child. I'm going to meet him after work, so I'm going to bring a change of clothes. I don't want the uniform to be the first thing he sees in me. I want him to learn who I am. Hey, I'm Corey. I'm a friend of your parents, and just see what his life is like and what he likes and what he doesn't like, and just meet him so he recognizes me. And then I did that like 2 or 3 times, not in uniform after work. And then the 4th time I came in uniform. Hey, it's Corey. Look, here's my work suit. I'm a policeman and I'm here to help. And at the very least, if there was some crisis or some meltdown and things were getting bad, that everybody would ask for me, and I could kind of diffuse it. That's not going to really translate to a big agency, but I think with the prevalence of autism now, and even a bigger department, you're going to have more officers with children on the spectrum. Somebody there is going to be the resident expert, whether they want to be or not.
Right.
It's their passion, because their child is their passion, and they're going to take control of it.
Well, maybe eventually there becomes like another level of specialized training, so that a handful of officers in each department can go through it. It would maybe be voluntary, but they would go through it, and then you could make sure more often than not, at least a shift has one person with that specialized training. So I think everybody should get a certain amount, but everybody can't be a specialist. So everybody gets a certain amount of training, and then you have this handful that get more intense training. I think that would be very, very valuable.
Say I get intense daily training with Courtney. Every time I come home, it's the training day, so I get it.
So just to recap so far, first, prepare the kid. Social stories is great. I love that. Pictures, You want photographs, cartoons, whatever, wide variety of things. Show them what the different type of emergency responders look like, and kind of describe to them how they'll behave and what to say to them. I know I asked Beth that, and she said name, rank, and serial number. So, and that makes sense. I mean, if they know nothing else, they need to know their name, maybe their address, their parents' name. So, when you say name, rank, and serial number, what are you teaching Courtney to be able to repeat to anybody?
Yeah, I mean, Beth did that way back when. I can't even remember how long ago it was, but Courtney could tell anyone that asked. Beth would say, "Hey, what's your mommy's phone number? What's your mommy's name? What's your daddy's name? What's your daddy's phone number?" And Courtney, man, her memory is there.
Right,
She'll spout it out, and
right,
that's all I need. All I need is for somebody to please contact somebody that knows about Courtney.
right,
I tell you how to deal with this. Just call me. If for
right.
some reason we're separated, that's what that means.
How do you provide for? So Courtney's not nonverbal, but she kind of clams up around strangers a little bit, right? So she may not be. What do you do if your kid is just nonverbal? Is there, because you're not necessarily trained to dig through somebody's pockets either, unless you're arresting them. So if you're having
Right.
a medical issue, so how, is there any way really to equip a kid that way if the parent can't speak for them, but they're nonverbal?
I mean, that's a tough one. There are programs out there, and you mentioned one, and I don't remember the name of it that you said, but the project, whatever.
Oh,
There's all
Project
kinds of.
Lifesaver.
Well,
Um,
I've looked into some of those. None of them really applied to my jurisdiction.
okay.
I mean, basically voluntary registration, and we have a elderly community, not a lot of kids. So from my perspective, it's just been me running into them or noticing them and being put in touch with them. So the registry didn't really work out for us, but and also some of those things we've looked at with the wristbands and stuff. Like Courtney's not going to wear one; she doesn't want anything on her hands, and so
Yeah, that was a big thing. I thought because when I used to cycle every day, and I had a thing called a road ID, and it was for if I'm incapacitated because I didn't carry a wallet. I was a sweaty mess,
right,
so I would have this road ID, and it had some basic information, and you could flip it over and use this code, and it would give you more information.
mhm,
And that was great. I always thought, man, something like this for kids on the spectrum would be great, but then it took me a while to get used to wearing this all the time. So I could just imagine. And then you can't sew a tag on every piece of clothing. So that
right,
I guess could be a little problematic too. One of the things we touched on a little bit, I was cooking up an idea at one
mhm,
time, and Beth kind of shot me down. But then, so I was thinking, stickers. And what happened was I saw in some of our market research, I saw there was a company that was selling these stickers, and I tried to figure out a way to make it more broad. It wasn't just autism. I think I said special needs person on board, but I did
right,
have the may not speak or may appear
mhm,
combat or maybe non-compliant, things like that. And I was asking for some opinions on design in our support group, and and Beth said the sticker may not be the best idea because specifically I was talking about if an accident occurs, right? So I think that's what
mhm,
she was focused on too. She said if an accident occurs, there's a medical emergency, nobody's reading any stickers. They're getting the door open, they're getting the people out, they're making sure everybody's safe. But then you mentioned in something I hadn't thought of, in a regular, traffic stop or other, you come in contact with people for a myriad of reasons other than traffic accident. So you mentioned that actually a sticker might be a pretty good idea.
yeah, I like the idea, and the one thing I thought of when I started hearing about this was one of the one of the situations I had where we have license plate readers in Ponce, so they're reading tags as they come in and out, and it alerted to me that somebody didn't have a valid license, or the owner of this car doesn't have a valid license, so we're stopping them to see if the owner is driving, basically, and as soon as I got behind it to stop it, and I am not advocating for this or whatever, but they had an autism awareness tag. And that was all it took for me to, as soon as I saw the tag, I saw the child in the back seat who started flapping because, hey, mommy's pulling over. This is just what I'm thinking. Mommy's pulling over and she shouldn't be stopping now. What's going on? So he starts getting a little agitated, and it all came together really quickly for me. So I went up to the car with the new mindset. Like, hey, how is he? Is he okay? Hey, it's just going to be a minute, buddy. I'm talking to him and her. I think a sticker is a fantastic idea because, like I said before, the quicker I can. Whoops, something's in my way here. Stand by.
You're
The
there.
quicker,
You
the quicker I can identify the autism child, then the better I can react to
the
that.
better. And I would say, even for those who haven't had any training, right? I think
Right.
the general population now is aware of autism, and I don't mean this in a way. I'm not trying to be funny, but you and I are about the same age. I think you're probably older, but whatever. They no, I think we're the same age actually. But and I don't mean this to be flip, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but most of the time when you talk to someone our age about autism, if they are unaware, they think of the movie Rain Man, right? And that's just because that was probably even the first that some of us heard the word. So it's important for the law enforcement to realize that it presents in several different ways, hundreds of different ways. But
Right.
I think it's enough of a conversation now that people would recognize I need to deal with this a little differently. So even if the law enforcement officer hasn't had specific training, something like the vanity license plate, the autism tag, a sticker on the car, something like that is a good move, just to let you know before you even get there.
For sure. And even to the extent of I'm trying to pull over this car and somebody jumps out of the back seat and starts running away. Like my initial thought traditionally would be, hey, there goes a bad guy. Where's he going? Let's get him. Instead
Right.
of if he had a sticker or a tag or I knew he was on the spectrum. Hey, this child doesn't know why mommy's stopping and is freaking out and running for safety, and completely different
Different
reaction.
scenario. Yeah.
Completely different. Like, let's get this child safe. It's really a bipolar
Right.
world I live in, man. It's different.
I bet. It's fun though, right?
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, I've been doing it forever. So, and Courtney has taught me so much. So much empathy and patience, and just really opened me up as a person.
Well, I
So
know every time I see her, she's smiling. She's always so happy. So I've
oh
always
yeah,
seen her at her best, I guess. But yeah, when they come by the office to visit, or when we were on Beach Street, I would see her once in a while, and she was always happy. One of the days we actually met. And had some paperwork to do, and we met at the coffee shop Marley's down there, Sweet Marley's, and she dealt with it pretty good. But Beth knows she's so patient. Like I could see her if you or I were to step out of line, I could see us walking away with a scar. But she's so good with Courtney. It's great. Like I told when Beth was on, I told everybody how she fought off a raccoon, with her bare hands to save her dog. So I could just imagine what she would do, to protect Courtney. But now you mentioned elopement, and that's it also got me thinking. So each geographical area also has some unique aspects about it that are hazards. So in Florida, we have the water. I mean, ponds, the ocean, pools, and it seems that a lot of times kids on the spectrum are really attracted to water. But then if you're in a different area, more mountainous, or you live in a wilderness area, then a kid can be lost in 30 seconds, lost in the woods. So we also, I think, have to be very aware of what our geographical hazards can be and try to plan for that a little bit. Is there anything in particular that you think of when it comes to like Florida, the water, the beach, the different things like animals, gators, is there anything in particular that you think of for Florida?
well, I mean, not geographically speaking, just it's all child dependent. So, what does the child like? If I take the child to this park all the time, she loves the park. It's right down the street. That's going to be a place that she might elope to. Like I'm gonna identify danger areas that I wouldn't want her to go to without me, but that she loves. So like if she ran out the front door right now, she's either going to Sanchez Park or the beach or the neighbor's pool. You know, look in those three places. So
Right. And look in the
Um,
most hazardous one first.
right. And then
Right.
traffic is bad for all of them, and they might not be looking both ways, kind of stuff. That's terrifying. But um, you can do. I wrote down. Basically securing your home, just starting at, again with the child and up with the home. You can get the door alarms that beep when they open, so that you know that the door's open. Hey, where's Courtney? What's going on? But also you can put like visual aids. She responds really well to visual aids, like I said with the social story. You can put signs on the exits of your home. I mean, it depends on the level of the child and what they understand, but
Right.
hey, where's mommy? Before you leave, where's mommy? Or, don't leave without mommy. Or you could have a map of red X's. Don't go in the street. Don't go here without mommy. I mean, just a preparation kind of thing for them. Um, but as far as the region, I mean, yeah, water is the big one. And Courtney loves to swim. And the first thing we did was teach her how to swim, just
Right.
to kind of get away from that danger.
And is that what led her? So she's in the Special Olympics too. Every time I see, well, most often when she goes, she medals and everything. So is that how she came about? Is that how the Special Olympics came about? You were teaching her how to swim for safety issues, and she just enjoyed it so much.
Well, 100%. We taught her for safety. I mean, when we looked for this house, we made sure that it didn't. We cannot look at a house with a pool. We didn't even want neighbors to have pools at the time. Or we made sure that we had secure locks at the gates, so that she's not going to get in anybody's pool. I mean, the pool was the lure at all
Right.
times. So we got her to learn how to swim. Now she's an awesome swimmer, and that led her into the Special Olympics. When you say she medals, she does medal, but she is not fast. She's super not fast. Like, it's just, a lot of them medal. So to
Hey,
speak.
a
But
win is a win.
she really enjoys it. She's got, if you see a picture of her on the podium with her medal, she's got the biggest grin that'll melt your
Yeah.
heart. And it's just an awesome thing. And swimming is
Well, what
a
I
big
think
deal.
is funny is sometimes, Beth will post a selfie and you can see Courtney in the back seat and it's early in the morning and Beth
Right,
not smiling so much. But Courtney is grinning from ear to ear. She's ready to
right.
go. So, but
That's
it's
right.
sometimes it seems early, but it's fantastic. So, really preparation, again, the safety, it comes down to preparation. Prepare your kid, prepare your house. A sticker's a great option because it speaks to other people. And I love that. That's something I wouldn't have thought of. Call your local dispatcher, your local county dispatcher, and let them know that my child has autism. These are, whatever's specific to your child, let them
Mhm.
know that so that it can be put on your record. And that, I mean, that does make sense. I never put that two and two together, but I have, like, watching cops and different shows like that. Like, you hear the dispatcher sometimes feeding the law enforcement agent information, and I never really put two and two together. Like, how do they know this stuff? I guess I just assumed that whoever called in was saying it, but some of it could be
Right.
a record. Yeah, so
Big distance.
that's a big one. I think that's huge
What's
because
funny is I was sitting here waiting for this interview, and I had like 10 minutes to go, and I called the dispatch to see if that was kosher with them, because I don't want them to get overwhelmed with phone calls. And they're like, "Oh,
right,
absolutely, we'll do that." And yes, before that, it would be, relying on what did the caller say during this crisis, and they might not be thinking of that at the time, or they would rely on responding officers to tell them later, "Hey, I went to this house and this kid appeared to be on the spectrum, so enter that for this address." No,
right.
the best source is going to be the parent. Call them directly. Tell them, "Hey, here's my kid. Here's where he may or may not elope. Here's his triggers. Here's his whatever you feel necessary to tell them."
That kind of thing, I think too, that's important. Part of what you're doing there is, you, before you even call them, you need to sit down and really think about this yourself. Think about your kid. What do they like? Where do they go? Where might they go? Like, if they do elope or something like that. I think that's important information for you to just have centralized and for you to revisit sometime as a parent anyway. What are some of those special accommodations or things that we need to do or places we might look first, if you take stock in that and discuss it as a family too, a brother and sister may have something to add that you're unaware of that they do when you're not around or something like that. So it's good to sit with the family and talk about the specifics of your child so that you can share that with dispatch, because that may be the first place they look, if they have that information already, and that could make the difference.
And I know the purpose of this whole interview is the law enforcement aspect, but I would be sharing all that stuff with all of my neighbors as well. I mean, they're the first line of defense. They're the ones that are going to see your child at the end of the yard before it even gets that far. So,
And no, they shouldn't be. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
would tell all of my neighbors, because
Tell the village.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The more help we can get, the better. Like, the more
Right.
help our kids get, the better.
For sure. So is there anything in particular, like, have you ever come upon a situation like we were talking about the special needs family or whatever, and you thought, man, I wish these parents would have done fill in the blank? Have you ever run into any of that yourself?
Not necessarily. I haven't. And that family I was meeting with, and I came in my uniform the last time. There was never any crisis. The child's moved on, and he doesn't live in our community anymore, and nothing ever really happened. But I mean, I was down to the minutia of, hey, what stuffy does he like? Oh, he loves Minnie Mouse. So I went out and got one of the Beanie Baby Minnie Mouses. I had it in my duty bag just in case I got to go to his house. I'm going to have some calming effect on him. He's going
Right.
to know me. We've seen you before. Hey, look, I brought Minnie Mouse. You want, just um, negatively, I haven't come across that many down there. Now I thought of one where it wouldn't be really on the parent. It was just on my realization. We had like a music festival outside, and I saw somebody. There were like four officers working the detail, and I saw one of my officers kind of getting eyeballed by somebody and followed closely, and I didn't really recognize it as quickly as I wanted to. Of course, one of those things I beat myself up over later in hindsight. But this person was watching the officer, was kind of following him through the crowd, and then followed him into the officer was going inside to use the bathroom, and the person followed him a couple steps behind. And I'm like, I don't think the officer realizes this. So I went in there to make sure everything was okay. And as soon as I talked, I'm like, hey, is everything all right, to the young man? And he was clearly on the spectrum. I mean, he loved police. He loved the shiny stuff on the belt. He loved the badge. He was looking at the gun.
It was
He just
admiration.
he wanted to be close to him. And man, my first reaction is, uh-oh, my officer might be in trouble, might about to get jumped. I mean, it's and that's me who has an autistic kid is thinking like this. So
Right.
this just kind of weighs on me a lot, and I just want all the officers to be informed. And so that was a negative-ish that I dispelled. But that's nothing the parent did wrong. I mean, the kid loved cops. So.
Right. Well, one of the things I think, as we're talking through that, because you've made some great points, and I think that what I would like to do is I'll have this not transcribed, but over the next week, I'll have someone on our team kind of break out some bullet points and maybe a document that we can email to people as a PDF that just kind of goes through the points that you made and has. I love that social story aspect, because that's something you don't have to be an artist or anything special to do that. You can print stuff, grab stuff off the internet. So what I'm going to do is on our end, I'll have somebody on my team put that document together. We'll have it in PDF. And then if anybody wants to receive it, they can just shoot us an email, support@neuralbalance.com, and ask for the autism safety sheet. And we'll send that out. Now, of course, it's suggestions. There's no guarantee that if you follow these things to the letter of the law that nothing is ever going to happen, but it's all just tips, and based on your experience as both law enforcement and an autism dad. So I think it would be very valuable. So if anybody watching the show wants to receive a copy of that PDF, just shoot us an email and request it, and we'll get that right out to you so that we can do what we can to try to be helpful. And I think we should talk. I wonder if there's not something that we could do, even some videos or something that we can create that people in the law enforcement community can share with one another. It could be an unofficial thing. Every group has a Facebook group on on Facebook, obviously. So I'm sure there's law enforcement groups and things where you guys kind of get together and talk about stuff, or maybe you just don't want to do that. But if there are, then we could put together a couple videos and share it in those communities, and see what we can do to help out kind of organically until this does become a bigger part of training. So.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, I really appreciate you being on. Anybody wants more information, like I said, email us support@neuralbalance.com. Is there any question that went unasked or anything that you wanted to say for the cause that we didn't get to?
I think I covered all of it. But I do appreciate your time, and I like getting the information out there. I wasn't trying to be critical of law enforcement. I was just kind of giving the background as to my experiences and the troubles and tribulations of it. So.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't get the vibe that you were. I certainly wasn't either. I know you guys face a lot of dangerous and unnecessarily annoying things on our behalf every day. So I certainly appreciate and respect that. And it comes down to training. I think, there are most of the things that we see where special needs adults or kids have a problem with law enforcement or something goes wrong. It would be a matter of a little bit better training on their side, but sometimes a little more preparation also on our end. I mean, you have a special needs child. You have to take that into account when you go out into the world so that you can be the best prepared, I suppose. So you kind of have to look at it like, I have to approach it like nobody has any training. So and I think that's probably the safest way to do it. Have as much information, prepare the kid as much as you can, and, hope for the best, I guess, from there.
Right.
So
that's good.
Well, Corey, I do appreciate you coming on today. I'm going to sign off with a couple of announcements. So I appreciate you, and we might do a part 2 to this, and I'll send you the PDF before we call it official, just to make sure there's nothing that you want to add or correct or anything like that. And again, if anybody wants to receive that, they can just go right to support@neuralbalance.com, shoot us an email and request it. Corey, it was great having you. I hope you have a nice couple days off, and be safe out there.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. That was great. Corey's a good guy. We're friends on Facebook, and he and his wife Beth offer a lot of support for the community here locally. And I hope this was helpful to you. We had some great tips as far as how to prepare your child, how to prepare yourself, some ways that you can equip your vehicle or maybe even your house, that sticker that we talked about. And spoiler alert, we are going to do the sticker, and it's going to be free. So email us support@neuralbalance.com and ask for the safety info and the safety sticker. We are going to go ahead and move forward with that program. We think it'll be helpful. So email us at support@neuralbalance.com and say, I would like that safety sticker, and I would like the points from your talk with Sergeant Corey Mead. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions about us, remember the Spectrum Report is brought to you by Neural Balance with Anandinol. You can learn more about Neural Balance with Anandinol by going to our website, neuralbalance.com, and clicking on the How It Works tab. And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook for these great live events, and join our group. Our group is great because parents get in there, they help one another, they support one another, give each other some great advice, and it's not just about the product, Neural Balance. People get in there and talk about diet and different things, coping. So I love the group. I love to see the support that the community gives one another. And again, shoot us an email, support@neuralbalance.com, if you would like to receive the sticker when it's available for free. No shipping, no nothing. We'll send you the sticker if you ask for it. And also a PDF when it's available of tonight's show, the main points that we stuck to. I do appreciate you watching the Spectrum Report. My name is Gabriel Williams, and I am signing out. I hope that you join us next time.
Because of neurobalance, my daughter can sleep through the night consistently, which hasn't happened in years, and we are so thankful.